Groves, I've represented myself to you today as a law enforcement officer, is that correct?
I'm sorry?
I've represented myself to you today as a law enforcement officer?
Yes.
And you do realise that being a law enforcement officer in the state of Florida, I can take a sworn statement from you.
Yes.
Okay, but don't mind, would you raise your right hand for me, please? Do you swear testimony about to give me the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Absolutely, I do.
Okay, you can raise your right hand, mate. Just state your name for me one more time.
Maryann Groves.
And what state do you live in?
Connecticut.
Okay, and who do you live there with?
My husband.
Okay, and is that Teresa's father?
No.
Okay. And how long have you lived in Connecticut?
All my life.
Okay, and is that originally where Teresa was from?
Yes.
Okay, how long ago did Teresa move from Connecticut?
Oh, I know you're starting. She's been gone a while. I'm not good with remembering dates right now, but all I know is that after she graduated from Fairfield University, she left Connecticut. And that was, it had to be when she was like maybe 24, and that was then to give or take a few years, and then she went off to med school at Ross University, and then she did her internships, and then she ended up doing a final internship in, I think it was Jacksonville, Florida, and then she just stayed in Florida all her life after.
Now, tell me about this weekend. Did you have visitors this weekend?
Well, we were all away for a family reunion.
Okay, and where did that take place?
In New York.
Okay, and did Teresa and Mark and the children, Carmela and Josephine, come?
Everybody was there, my whole family.
Okay, and what day did they come up on?
It came up on Friday. That would have been June 26th.
Okay, about what time did they get to? About what time did they get to the house?
Did they arrive at the house?
Yes.
Well,
approximately.
Between 2 and 3.
Okay, and how was their attitude?
Everything was. We had a wonderful time. We were on a lake. The kids had a ball. And Teresa was her usual self, hurrying around cooking everything. She takes control of the kitchen. Everything was lovely.
Okay. And on Sunday, did Teresa have to leave?
Yes, she had to leave, and the plan was that Mark was going to take her to the airport with the kids, and then because we didn't have room in our car, and then from there come back to our house, which he did.
Okay. And about what time did he get back?
I know they stopped at a restaurant at the bottom of the hill from where we lived and had dinner because the kids were starving, and I didn't necessarily have anything to give them but the leftovers I brought back from New York. So he stopped. I would say he got back to the house somewhere between 6 and 7. I mean, I can't pinpoint it exactly.
Okay. And how was his demeanor then?
Oh, fine. I mean, kids were happy to be at my house. In other words, originally they were all supposed to go back, but because the kids said, well, gee, we're going all the ways to Connecticut, we're only going to be there a few days.
Yeah.
And so that's how they ended up staying longer.
Okay. Was that the last time you heard from Teresa? Or did you have a telephone call?
No, I did not talk to her. I know that I told her, I says, let me know when you're home. Text me when you're home. Well, when I woke up in the morning, I didn't have a text, but when we went into the kitchen, Mark said that he had heard from her when she arrived at the airport, or when she landed and was in her car heading home.
Okay.
And that was the last, I think, that we heard of her. I mean, I never heard from her, but when I didn't hear from her and I knew Mark had known that she had landed and was safe and was on her way home, I was satisfied that, she was home.
Right. And you never received anything else, a FaceTime call?
No, because they did FaceTime. Mark told me they pulled over and said their evening prayers because they knew Mommy was going to be boarding the plane. So he pulled over and they all said their prayers on FaceTime together.
Okay.
And then he, got in the car and drove up to Connecticut.
Okay. Now, was Teresa a religious lady?
A religious person. I used to call her my modern-day Mother Teresa.
Okay.
She maybe didn't follow the Catholic faith that she was brought into, but she was very religious in her own way. I mean, I can't speak for her. I mean, I've been brought up a Catholic, and I've always practiced my Catholic faith, but it never bothered me that she didn't, because I knew she was always in tune with spirituality and God.
Okay.
And every night she said prayers with the kids about God, and whenever I was there, I would join them. So I would say she was religious, but not a Catholic religious. She was just...
She didn't attend church or anything?
Well, she did. There was these Pastor Judy, they're ordained female priests that I don't exactly know how it all happens, but I went to one of their services one time a couple of years ago when I was down there. And, then sometimes she would go to the Catholic church. I mean, I know sometimes I took the kids with me when I came down and went to church at St. Leo's. And I know they also attended the Unity Church, where her mother-in-law and that's Bonnie, and her partner Melanie belong.
Okay.
So, I mean, she was a church-going person, but not necessarily on a weekly basis.
Okay.
She had faith in God.
Do you know if she was having any problems with anybody? Did she ever discuss that?
No, she just had a very hectic schedule, and she was on a mission to help people get well and stay well, take care of themselves, to the point that they maybe would never need to see a doctor again, that they could heal their mind, body, and spirit.
She never mentioned anybody that had threatened her, or...
No.
Did she ever mention a girl named Brittany to you?
Brittany?
Brittany, yeah.
Brittany. She mentioned so many different names, but it just doesn't ring a bell to me right now.
This is a girl that we saw. She's actually incarcerated right now, but...
Oh, and those must have been one of her mother's home.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, well, I wouldn't remember all of them, because she always mentioned so many of them. But I don't know who's who. I mean, don't ask me to. I just can't.
She may have had the child removed from the mother.
I just heard that. I know she was very involved with our mother's home.
Right.
I know she was very involved with our mother, and she used to entertain them at Christmas time at her house and have picnics for them at her house. Rather.
So they would come over to her house, did
They would come over to the house, yes.
Okay. Would that be all females that would go there?
Yeah, it would be mothers and their babies. Whether the babies were boys or not, I don't know. I mean, but they were all teenage, unwed mothers.
Yeah.
And sometimes she would invite the, what do we call, board members or whatever. I mean, she was also a board member. She was president at one time. She was very involved in helping other people. I mean, I don't know what else to say. I mean.
Okay. How would you describe her marriage with Mark?
They were a happy couple. I mean, she used to get upset with him because he kept his office a mess, but she finally realized that was always going to be Mark, But, she knew that, they were together for life.
Right.
They were together for life.
Did she ever talk about leaving Mark or divorcing him?
No. Not that I'm really aware of.
Okay.
Not really aware of. I mean, Teresa had a violent temper, but she was very, I can't use the right word.
I heard she was a firecracker.
Animated. She was a firecracker. That's a good word. Yeah. And so she used to get upset when he did something that she disapproved of. And the last thing I can think about was when they were leaving. She always liked to leave the house neat, and he was always the cleaner-upper of the kitchen. I mean, because she always had so many things to do, and she always didn't want to come home to a messy house. And as they were getting ready to leave, there was a dirty frying pan in the sink, and she went ballistic.
Right.
She just, I don't want to come home to that pan in the stove, And he's, I know, I just have it soak in there, So I don't know whether it was ever left there, whether he ended up cleaning it and putting it away, but she did make that comment that
Right.
he left a frying pan there, and he knows better. He knows better to go do that. And, but that's, she was just, it's just the way she was. I mean, we're a very vocal family, And, I mean, sometimes she would argue with me about something because I wasn't intuitive enough to understand everything she was trying to do for me, because she always said to me, "You're not dying on my watch. I'm going to keep you alive, Mom." I guess she can keep me alive now from heaven. But, she sometimes didn't understand. I mean, I just sometimes didn't understand everything she was trying to do for me, But she just had a heart of gold. And,
What about her finances? How are her finances?
she was very generous. She was a doctor, but you would never know it by looking at her home and everything. She gave away probably more than anybody I ever known. Donated to this, and donated to that. And, they had a very simple life. Very simple life.
Did she ever loan any money from anybody?
Pardon me?
Did she ever loan any money from anybody?
Did she loan
Yes.
to other people?
No. Get loans from other people?
Oh, that I wouldn't know. I mean, other than what they would borrow for their business. I mean,
Not from banks, but from...
from people?
Yes.
No, people borrowed from her.
Right.
Or she gave money to people, never paid her back, and she never cared.
Do you know who the names of some of those people?
I'm trying to think. I'm trying to know. She might have given money to her sister.
Right.
Her sister, she might have given money. I know that for a fact. She probably gave money to her sister many times.
Okay. Do you know of any domestic violence in the household?
No.
I mean, when I say domestic violence, I don't mean verbal, because I've heard they shouted at each other like...
Oh,
soup
yes.
and
So
that.
that's about the only violence there was. It was a very verbal family.
Right.
Very verbal family.
Do you know anything about any life insurance on either of them?
No, they just mentioned when I was at the funeral department that, Mark said there was a policy on Teresa, but I know nothing about what it was or how much it was.
Okay. Any infidelity on either side?
Not that I'm aware of.
You've never made, hey,
Never.
I've been seeing this guy, I feel bad about it.
No, nothing. She's never said anything like that, and that's not my Teresa. She did all that before she was married.
Okay. Was she ever married before?
Sure, very briefly. Very briefly, yeah.
How long ago was that?
Well, let's see, she was married to Mark for 10, 11 years, 12 years.
Mm-hmm.
So it had to be, I'm trying to think now, I mean, Tom and I have been married 17 years. Maybe it was 14 or 15 years ago.
And are the children Mark's?
They're Mark's children. They don't even know that Teresa was ever married before.
Okay.
Okay, so I don't think it's necessary that they know that.
No.
In fact, I was making a book of her life because I started it when my first son turned 50 and made a book for his first 50 years. And then the following year, my daughter Ann turned 50, and I made one for her. And now I got 2 more children, and I'm saying to myself, I don't know if I'll be able to do this when they're 50, so I think my son was turning 40 that year. One of those years. Let's see, he was born in 72, so in 2012 he would have been 40. I started a book for him. And then Teresa was born in 72, so if you add 45 to that,
45 was on
Two-
2017.
no.
No.
No, she was born in 68, sorry.
68.
My son was born in 72. She was born in 68. On her 45th birthday, I had started a book for her. So there is a book started for her. But, the goal was to finish it for Frankie, who was 40 when I started it.
Right.
But then I wouldn't have that much more to do, because it was hard enough for me to do it for the first 2. And I figured I'll be 80-something years old. I said, it's not going to be that much easier.
Yeah.
So that's, I started that. I don't exactly remember what your question was now, but...
I was talking about domestic violence.
Oh, no,
or infidelity.
no, domestic violence, no.
Did she have any other houses other than the one she lived in?
Yeah. They lived in St. Petersburg.
That actually belongs to them now.
No, they sold that house.
Okay, where was that?
St. Petersburg.
Oh, okay.
Nellis Point, on the Pink Street.
Okay.
It's a lovely, lovely neighborhood.
How long ago did they sell that?
Pardon me?
How long ago did they sell that?
Oh, God. I'm good with dates. I'm trying to picture what was where. Well, Carmi's about 8 years old, I think, or 9.
Mm-hmm.
They had just moved to Fort Myers when she was born, but not into the house that they're in now, because that's the house that was being built. Because when they came down to Fort Myers, that house wasn't ready, so they had bought another house. And they rented that afterwards. They lived in that house, and then when their house was ready, they moved into that house.
Was that the house next door?
That was a purchase of the house next door, and then a lot that the house is on now.
Okay.
You know, there was enough room there for her to keep the house, so they rented that house and had a new house built on the lot next door.
Okay. Now, what car did she drive?
What car did she drive? She drove the Mercedes, I think you call it, white. Man, she used to call it her baby. Nellie, I think she used to refer to it as my Nellie. I don't know. Like I say, I just can't remember things like I should remember. That's one of the things she was trying to help me with, because she didn't want me to become senile. I mean, she has me doing nose sprays and taking Regenemax pill. I mean, she had me taking so many supplements, because I always felt that my memory was not as sharp as it should have been or could have been.
Right.
But I don't think it's gotten any worse. But it's just hard for me sometimes. Even when I was good, I could never always remember things exactly the way they always happen. But I do remember I did have a good memory at one time when I used to do real estate, and I used to go to seminars, and they would say, it's very important to listen to what people are saying. And she would repeat something or say something, and she would want everybody to repeat it. And I would be able to repeat it practically word for word, how she was presenting her case, where other people were missing certain points.
Right.
Asked me to do that now, and I don't think it would be as good.
Well, it happens to the best of us. Did she travel a lot?
Oh, yeah. She traveled an awful lot.
Where did she used to go to?
Oh, I mean, I can't keep track of where she went. She went everywhere. Seminars. I know she went. I think she went to Texas to film TV episodes.
Okay.
She went so many places. She was involved with so many people that are famous. Dr. Norman Shealy.
Mm-hmm.
Another woman who was one of the first people, I think, that inspired Teresa, and she died of cancer. I can't think of her name right now. I mean, maybe if you said it, or I just can't. I mean, it's like I couldn't remember. I know the name, but it's just not coming to me of who it was.
Right.
But she had a lot of connections with a lot of different people. I mean, I haven't seen any news reports, so all I know that she's being interviewed and talked about throughout the country. People from different parts of the country said they saw her on national TV or heard about her on national TV, and that's what she was trying to do. She wanted to reach masses of people, and I always told her, I know you'll do it, Teresa. I just know you'll do it. She has, but not the way I wanted her to.
Is there anybody you suspect that may be involved in this?
I would have a clue. I would have a clue who could harm my baby. Unless somebody was envious of all the good that she was doing. I don't know. I don't know.
But she never complained of that? She never complained of that?
Complained of what?
Somebody, like maybe business related, that was jealous of her and threatened her?
No, I don't think so. I mean, she always felt there were people out there that were trying to do what she was doing, but they didn't have all the credentials. She maybe had, like she's got a bunch of credentials, but there would be this person here who had maybe one or two of her credentials, but yet this person was trying to accomplish all the things that she was doing with all her credentials. Mm-hmm. And she always felt that there were, people out there that weren't as qualified as her, but they tried to do what she was doing.
Okay.
But she didn't feel they had, not that she didn't want them to do it. She wanted people to do what she was doing, but they weren't doing it her way.
Okay.
They weren't doing it her way, That's how I perceive her, because she was very adamant about, I remember going to her. She received what they call the Apex Award for Businesswoman in Fort Myers. She was one of the 5 finalists. And I remember being there, and my daughter Ann, she had to have somebody present her. And in most cases, it was the husband.
Yes.
But she said to Mark, she said, would you mind very much if Ann did it? Because Ann is very good with words and everything. He said, oh, by all means, So he introduced her, and then my daughter Ann introduced her, and then Teresa accepted her, and she made her comments and everything. But when there must be a copy of that speech that my daughter Ann made to introduce her, and the speech that Teresa made after Ann introduced her.
Right.
And she had a quote, and I can't get it right, but it all was something to the effect that staying healthy is your wish, but it's my passion. Something to that. It's not right. I'm saying, but it was her passion to keep you well.
Okay.
That was her goal. You might want to take care of yourself and do the right things, but it was her passion to see that you did do the right things. Something to that effect. I'm sure there's a quote of her like that somewhere in her biography.
How was her health?
Pardon me?
How was her health?
Her health was great.
Yeah, no problems?
No. She took care of herself, and I'm not aware of any health problems that she had. I know. And that was it.
Did she have any other surgeries?
Yeah, she had, she was very self-conscious about how she looked. And her figure was not that it wasn't a good figure, but she knew it wasn't. The way she exercised and everything, there was something about her stomach that bothered her.
Right.
And the doctor told her that she never would have been able to correct that problem because of whatever he found. But don't ask me what it was. You'd have to talk to her doctor who did the surgery.
Was it after she had children?
Oh, yeah. It was while she was down here in Florida. It was not all that long ago. It was actually after her father died.
Okay.
And he left them all some money, and she says, you know what, I'm going to use Dad's money for that. I know he was such a vain person that he would understand why I was using it for that. But it was awful what she went through. I remember going down there and her coming home from the hospital. I said, oh my God. But then she had, and I don't know who it was, whether it was Lanka or something, because she's had so many people in her life that she has touched and have touched her. Someone came to her house to give her Reiki. And I'm not sure I could explain it properly, but in the process of doing this Reiki, the person who was doing it was like all shaking because of the energy that was being transferred. That's the best way I can explain it, which I don't really understand at all, you know. But that's it. She got well. It did improve her figure, made her look, like she had a waist,
yes.
And she says, it's important for me to look good, Ma. I'm telling people that they could look good. They got to take care of themselves. She says, and exercise and everything, and she was doing all that, but she could never get rid. I mean, it's I think almost like a genetic thing, because
Right.
I have I always had a tummy even as a kid. My daughter Ann had the same problem. I mean, I think it's more genetic.
Right.
She didn't want to, but
Did she ever complain about any of her employees?
oh yeah, oh yeah. I mean, they were never doing everything right, but nobody does everything right.
Right.
And she had to accept that. And she, sometimes I used to say, "Oh my God, they're doing things that are harming you, Teresa." Well, Mom, gotta live with what we can do. We can't afford to do this and that, and to do what they have to do.
Did she have any that she fired that she was concerned about?
Say it again.
Did she ever fire any employees?
Well,
that
she might
complained
have
about?
fired others. The only one, I don't even know if it was a firing, but there was a fellow named Frank
Mhm.
that they, gave him, asked him to leave. And whether they gave, I think she was always so generous. She probably gave him a severance package. If I'm not mistaken, she
Right.
did. But and then his wife Sandra worked there, and she didn't always do everything right either. And it was so hard to get good help in any field.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think she had told Sandra, and I just heard this the other day in conversation with other people, that she had told Sandra, I think it was she had told Sandra that you really need to try to find another job, because I really need to replace you or something like that.
Right.
And she has these new people there that I never even met. I can't even remember names. I know Crystal is one, but then she's supposed to be leaving because she bought a house and was moving away or whatever. I don't know. It's kind of like a blur to me. I can't be certain that I'm saying everything specifically as it really is, because it's basically, I'm just, trying to remember. Like Mark would tell me something now. If you ask me to repeat to you just exactly how Mark told it to me, I probably am not doing it, because, like I said to you, I don't keep it all here like I used to.
That's fine. How about security conscious? When Teresa would park her vehicle in the garage, would she leave the garage door open? Would she close the garage after she gets out of the vehicle?
I think she would close it most of the time. I mean, sometimes, like if I was there, she'd say, "Mom, why don't you get out of the car now, so that I could pull in and then you won't have to struggle to get out."
Yeah.
And she would close the door.
Would she back her car in or drive it in front?
No, she drove it in frontwards. Mark used to back it in.
Oh, okay.
Mark used to back his car in all the time.
Was there any damage on the van, do you know?
Yeah, it was got a couple bangs here and there from different, not always necessarily his fault. A couple times there were people that, those accidents, how they happen, you're not at fault, but they happen.
Yeah.
And that has happened. Whether there was any that were really his fault, I can't remember whether they were or not.
Do you know if she carried a gun on her?
Well, I know that she just got a permit, but I don't think she actually carried a gun
Okay.
on her. No, I don't actually think she carried a gun on her, because I think she just recently, because I guess one day I called her and she said that her and Mark were at the firing range.
Mm-hmm.
So whether she actually got the permit or not, I'm not even 100% sure. I think I heard them saying just recently, since I've been down here and they've been talking, that she did have her permit,
Okay.
but I'm not 100% sure.
Knowing Teresa's personality, if she found someone in the house, would she be more liable to fight them or run from them?
It'd be hard to say. I mean,
If she was confronted.
I know that, there was times that she was left alone because Mark had gone someplace, or whether he was out of town, went to St. Louis, back home for something, that she would get scared and she would call someone to come, her doctor friend, Dr. Mark.
Right.
So, but she's a tough cookie, so, I mean, I don't know how she would have reacted. I don't know how she would, I honestly can't say how she would have reacted.
Okay. Could she fight?
Could she fight physically?
Mhm.
Oh,
Did she have brothers, did she?
pardon me?
She had brothers growing up?
Oh, yeah,
She
yeah.
used to fight with them?
I wouldn't say that she fought physically, fight with them, no. You know.
I've got an 8-year-old and a 14-year-old, and they fight like cat and dog.
Well, yeah, but I don't think it was ever physical.
No?
No, not that I can, you know, and again, that's going back many years now, because the kids will say, Ma, don't you remember this? Well, I go, no, I don't remember that, you know.
Always remember them as angels.
Huh?
Always remember them as angels.
Yeah, yeah. I'm sure they had their disagreements, but I don't ever remember them fighting, that they were a problem fighting. No, I don't say
Do you remember what Teresa was wearing when she left?
that. She was wearing the same dress that she came in with. It was a black dress, white print.
Okay. Do you remember what shoes she was wearing?
Oh, probably a pair of, I think I remember they were, you know, what do you call them, those thongs?
Okay.
Because she had silver nail polish on, and they were dressy thongs with a little wedgie. Usually she always liked to wear high heels, but I think she's getting older now, so she told me how one time when she was younger, she'd be running to catch the plane, and she'd have one kid under each arm with high heels, and she'd be running to catch the plane. But now she's a little older, so she don't have to carry the kids, but she wasn't carrying them to go home. But I remember not having high heels when she came, but they were pretty dressy sandals.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all I can remember.
What about her luggage? Do you remember what she's...
They each had a bag. Had another bag with food, because she never went anywhere without a bag of food for the kids, so they wouldn't be eating junk.
Mm-hmm.
She always brought food for them.
Okay.
And then she'd stop at the health food store. I mean, I bought a lot of organic stuff that I don't buy for myself, but I figured there was no sense to having 2 kinds of everything, so I figured if I was buying eggs, she told me to buy 6 dozen eggs. I says, Teresa, we're only going to be gone for 2 days. But Ma, you know, Mark and I and the kids, we could eat 1 dozen by ourselves. I says, yeah, I know. I says, but, you know, that still leaves 3 more dozen, I said, you know. So anyway, okay, Ma, 4 dozen will be enough. But then my daughter Ann came up with another dozen, and we went through all of them.
Right.
Doing, you know, I made French toast in the oven, and I used a lot of eggs. So anyways, I bought a lot of things, and I told her what I bought. But she probably didn't remember all of it. Then she went to the store, so she wasn't supposed to duplicate some of the things. Like I told her I bought her roasted organic salted cashews, and I found some chocolate covered almonds that were organic, you know. And but she came home with I saw her leaving with a bag of almonds that were chocolate, so I know she bought them.
Right.
Because mine were in containers. And she also bought roasted cashew nuts, which I told her I had bought.
Right.
I mean, and she told me to buy a certain kind of cheeses to buy. I bought them. She still bought. But then she bought vegetables. I mean, she came in with like 4 bags of groceries.
Yeah.
I mean, she was always like that every time we went someplace. But this time we all ate organic, because I wasn't going to have, you know, now the kids eat organic, they eat gluten-free. I mean,
Right.
although now they're getting to, you know, she said to Mom, you know, Mark and Teresa were talking, I said, we're telling the kids now they're old enough to make their own choices. We made the foundation for them. If they know what happens when they eat dairy, and too much dairy or too much gluten, how it affects them. And they are vegetarian, but, you know, Mark says, I'm not going to stop them if they want to have a piece of meat now, but they don't, because they've been brought up not to eat it, and they don't desire it.
Is Mark a vegetarian?
He became a vegetarian too.
Were they called vegans? They just...
Yeah, something like that. I mean, vegans is, I don't know what the difference
I
between...
think a vegan is where you don't eat anything fish, eggs, or anything
The
like
only
that.
thing she would eat was eggs.
Okay.
She would eat eggs. She didn't eat any fish. She'd stop eating cheese.
Right.
So I guess she was a vegan minus, and she didn't use regular milk. I mean, Josie was, when she was a baby, was determined that she was allergic to regular milk.
Okay.
But then as she got older, she was drinking it, but then she was starting to break out
In hives
and things and stuff. So they switched to rice milk and stuff like that. So they've always, I mean, she's probably spent more money on food, and she didn't buy any meat. I mean, I've been shopping with her. She would go through $400 or $500 on food at one shopping time, and not a piece of meat.
Yeah.
And she always kept the house stocked like there was going to be a storm, that she wouldn't be able to go out for a month. And I used to say to her, Teresa, you got 15 boxes of pasta there, Ma. You know, it's just the way she was, you know.
Do you know who she banked with?
I know they used to have it, whether they still do or not, Bank of America, because I used Bank of America. And I was always supposed to set up my account, or her account with me, so that I could send money to her whenever I wanted to, because she was paying for my telephone. She made me get one of those iPhones, and I said, Teresa, I'm not increasing my phone bill any more than it is. You don't have to, Ma. She says, I'll get it for you on our plan. So my goal was I was supposed to send her $30 every month, because that's what it was costing her, but I never did. Never sent her a dime. Because every time something came up, she said, Ma, now you don't have to pay me that $30 for this month, that month, or I'm paying for this, your flight. I mean, it was just ongoing. I don't think I ever paid her any money, and it's been over a year since I've had that iPhone.
So she was a very generous person.
Very generous to everybody. Those kids at our mother's home, she couldn't do enough for them. Buying them clothes, doing things. She worked very, very hard to give to people financially, as well as try to help them stay healthy.
Did she ever mention anybody in particular from the halfway house or the?
If she did, I can't remember who was who. I mean, I think they all liked Teresa, and she was involved in so many different things. But there was always, you know, in any organization, there's always a certain amount of going back and forth. I know sometimes I'd be there and she'd be on the phone talking to this one, talking to that one. This one shouldn't have done that one. They should have let me know about it. Between other people. I mean, it was just ordinary, to me, ordinary stuff that, you know, I wouldn't say was anything that could be construed as somebody being malicious to want to harm her. I mean, I just can't picture that. Because, you know, the people there, as far as I know, I mean, I don't know all the ins and outs of it, but the people I know, that, you know, they were the ones who nominated her, one of the women there, and don't ask me which one it was, for that Apex award. And, you know, they had to write up a bio or something like that, and she was picked as one of the 5 finalists.
Did she ever mention the name Mark Botrytis?
That's the doctor. That's the doctor that Mark called when, well, I guess Sandra called Mark on his cell phone.
Okay.
I guess it was about 9:30 Monday morning.
Right.
And says, Mark, the doctor hasn't come in yet. And that's not like her. Do you think maybe she overslept? So he said, well, not likely, you know. He says, you know, she might be running a few minutes late, but I don't, you know, she was always on time to get to work. So now he's trying to get a hold of her. I'm trying to get a hold of her, texting her and this and that, and we're not getting any answers. And he was already in tears. He didn't know what had happened, but he's already in tears, thinking the worst. And I'm saying, Mark, you know, you got to be calm and collected. We got to see that there's got to be a rational reason for this, you know. So finally, he just couldn't get a hold of her. He says, well, I got to go to, you know, oh, I know. He says, check for her phone, you know. And it showed that it only had 4% left on it. And he said that she was having problems with her phone keeping the charge. And she took home a charge. So he didn't have a complete charge. He was using my charger. So anyways, he called Mark. He said, I'll see if Mark's around. No, I think, I'm trying to remember which happened first now. I think he called Mark first. He didn't answer. Left a message So in the meantime, because he didn't get right back, he called his mother.
Okay.
And they were heading out. I just found out that they were actually on the road. And then Mark called back to my son-in-law and said, well, I'm right around the corner, so I'll go check on her. And they made some joking comments about how it could all go about, should he go in through the front door, or, I guess Mark said, maybe I should Mark told him to use the code.
Okay.
And, see, I don't remember exactly how it went, but then he said, well, maybe you better go to the front door. But then he says, if you go to the front door, she says, Teresa's got a gun. She might think it's an intruder and shoot me, and then it'll come out that Teresa shot her best friend's husband.
Right.
Because she didn't know who he was, thinking he was an intruder, so they start laughing about it. And so, evidently, when she didn't answer the front door, he went around the back and used the code.
Okay.
And that's when he called Mark and says, Mark, you got to come home now, fast. And I guess he must have told her that she was dead. And then we both were up in the yard screaming, crying. And I said, you can't tell the kids now. So he knew their psychologist that they were with, that had seen the kids for different situations. And they were on vacation. But he was able to reach the husband, who was out hiking, and told what happened. He ran back to the cabin to wake up his wife, and they talked. And I said, I don't think you should tell the kids anything right now, except that we're going home. Mimi's coming home with us. And that's what we did. So we did. And they were a little kind of apprehensive, trying to understand what was going on. And, we were trying to make light of it. Well, Mimi's coming down with us, and this and that. And then we didn't tell them till we got to Bonnie's house, because we couldn't get into the house. And then her partner, Lanka, and her husband came over. And Bonnie was there with Melanie, and I was there. And he told the kids. And Josie was just screaming her head off. But Carly, she's a tough cookie. I mean, she was sobbing hard, but maybe because she was a little bit younger, and she didn't know how to express her feelings. She didn't scream like Josie did. But now Josie, she's so intuitive. She's like her mother almost, spirit-wise. Mommy's not here with her body, but I know she's here in spirit. And you can feel her energy. This is an 11-year-old talking.
Okay. Right now, you swear the testimony you give me is the truth, so help you God?
Absolutely.
You have any questions for me?
Just find the person that did this.
We've got every guy we've got working on this right now.
Pardon?
We've got every man we have working on this right now. That's what we're aiming to do. Okay? Let me get you back out front.
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.